Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Ayana Johnson. I'm the contracting and procurement specialist for this opportunity, and we are recording this pre-application conference. Yeah, we're just admitting a few more people before we get started. If you are not on mute when you enter, I will mute you. We'll get started we'll get started now. I was going to say we'll start at 2:05. Note that I will still be admitting a few more people. But this is the opportunity. It is a request for applications 185013. We issued a notice of fund availability in August. And this is for the 2024-2025 Public Facility Rehabilitation Program opportunity. It is Community Development Block Grant funded. For today's opportunity, we will have a presentation from Steve Girodot, who is the Housing and Revitalization Department project lead for this particular opportunity. We'll have some question and answers based on questions that we received by the September 4th timeline. Those questions that did not come in until after that timeline, we will address those written questions that came in through, and we will post them to the RFP vehicle messages. So those of you who are not muted, I'm muting you now. We've got an echo. Maybe because you're on more than one device. We certainly understand that you may have a need to do that. If you wish to speak, we'll ask you to come off mute. There will be a segment where I'll briefly mention key response items that I will be looking for with the applications that you submit. We have also with us this afternoon Adam Kind, who is our manager handling audit, e-procurement. I'm not certain what else is under your hat, Adam, but I know that all of our reporting, Adam's team is responsible for providing us with those opportunities, but his e-procurement team assists with the technical assistance that you might require as you navigate through Oracle, if this is the first time that you are in our electronic enterprise system. Adam's going to give a brief presentation regarding that navigation, what you'll be looking at, and how you'll submit your application and other documents for this opportunity. So we will have an opportunity for spontaneous or extemporaneous questions that you may have. So as I said, when we were beginning, this call is being recorded. If you come off mute, you have a question or you want clarification for something, please indicate your name and the nonprofit organization you represent when you start speaking. We do encourage as many questions as you may have at this time, because we, in this setting, have most of the people who will be able to give you a quick and immediate response. For any questions that we're not able to provide you with a response in this session, we will secure that information and we will post it to the request for application Oracle for everyone to be able to see. Any verbal responses to questions that we provide today, we want you to know that those are unofficial until they're documented in writing as an official response in Oracle. Some of the questions that you may ask today may not be of substance for us to try to document them and post them. We are recording this session. This session will be available in YouTube for you to review, and I will provide a link via Oracle for you to be able to access. If you're not yet registered in Oracle, we're going to strongly encourage you to do so as quickly as possible. It's a free process. It's fairly simple to do by going to the city's website and going to our supplier instructions page. Again, as I said, if you run into a challenge and need technical assistance, we do have on the website videos to assist you. There are some PDFs that can provide assistance, but we do have a live team who also provide sessions on a daily basis during the week. And when I say daily, I mean business days, Monday through Friday. And that schedule I can post in the RFA as a resource if I've not done so already. Again, we want to remind you to submit any of your questions in Oracle, and we'll respond to all questions that are in Oracle, typically within 24 hours. So at this time, I will indicate that we advertised this opportunity on August 12th. The Housing Revitalization issued a notice through our government delivery email distribution, and most of you were probably on that email. The RFP was published and released August 28th. The question deadline for this session was September the 4th last week, 3 o'clock. And we will post the questions that were received to the RFP by 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, September 10th. Applications are due September 26th at 3 p.m. There also will be on that same date a virtual public recording at 4 o'clock. And for those of you who submitted applications, you'll be able to hear who submitted applications for this opportunity. We will also indicate the dollar amount of the application responses that we received. So we'll indicate the name of the organization and the amount of money that they are requesting. The activities for this particular program, Steve will give in more detail, but this is slated for January 1, 2025 through December 31st, 2026. And if that's wrong, Steve, when you do your presentation, you're welcome to make that edit. So at this time, I'll just briefly say that the applications for this opportunity are designed to aid public service providers in the rehabilitation of their facilities. Nonprofit organizations that operate a public service located in the city of Detroit are encouraged to apply for funding if operating a facility that requires repair and/or renovation. Funding will be made available for pre-development costs associated with the development of the project scope and budget, as well as the construction phase of the project. That's as much as I will say. Well, actually, there's a tidbit more. And I will post this slide deck to the request for application. We were advised that approximately $3.5 million is available for this particular opportunity for the 2024-2025 funding period. Decisions will be based on the quality and the quantity of applications received. In the past, there have been occasions that based on the number of participants who submitted applications and the scope of the application and the dollars that were associated, that sometimes all worthy applications have not always been able to be funded through this specific opportunity. But the Housing and Revitalization Department, they make a determination if there is such an instance, and obviously our city council will weigh in on these requests, but they will make contact with the organizations that have been deemed eligible and able to be funded for these particular activities. So, Steve, with that, I'm going to let you share. Yeah, I'll let you share your screen. I'm going to stop sharing. And you can introduce yourself and begin your portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I really appreciate it. Can see if I can launch this correctly. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Great. Like Elizabeth said, my name is Steve Jurdat. I manage the Public Facility Rehab section here for HRD. Really excited about this funding opportunity. I know it's been a couple years since the last NOFA that we put out, so it's something we're really excited to get going. Start with a little background about the Community Development Block Grant Program. Started with the Housing and Community Development Act 1974 for low to moderate income persons by promoting decent housing, suitable living environment, and expanded economic opportunity. There are some main national objectives that we try to meet with CDBG. It's to benefit low to moderate income persons, either individually through an area-wide benefit or activities that benefit special populations. Can also aid in the prevention or elimination of slums and blight, or to meet an urgent need. And 70% of our HUD allocation must meet this first national objective, which is kind of called the main national objective, the one that benefits low to moderate income individuals. Public facility rehab, the program uses CDBG funding to address the needs of Detroit residents who utilize public facilities such as community centers, senior centers, and homeless shelters. And that's just a couple of examples. We've also worked with early childhood centers. We worked with some other entities such as that, some educational centers that offered some educational services. Those types of facilities that do offer those public facilities like Elizabeth had mentioned earlier. Past city council priorities have been to focus on ADA improvements, any improvements that remove any hazardous conditions, or any improvements that could bring the facilities back to local, state, and federal code. Like Elizabeth mentioned, we have up to $3.5 million available in CDBG funding, and we are asking that a minimum request of $300,000 be made. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into the presentation and talk about the questions. But if there's historically there's been some projects that have been a little bit smaller in scope and budget, and that it becomes difficult to manage from a programmatic standpoint if we have a lot of smaller projects. That's why we have that minimum request.
I want to know. Usually they would do a video, like a community.
Yeah, actually, I think it's happening right now.
Hello,
Community.
you just joined us. I'm going to mute you. We're in our presentation phase right now. We'll address questions a little later in this activity. Go right ahead, Steve. Sorry for the interruption.
I appreciate it, Elizabeth. Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about the project phases. Some of you may be familiar with the PFR program in the past. This year it's going to be a little bit different. After awards are made, projects will be phased in two phases. And the reason we're separating this is so we can get a better idea of what the scope and the budget of the project is going to be. So each project will start with a pre-development phase. Well, an organization will be awarded up to $50,000 to be used for environmental consultants, architectural services, and to procure a general contractor. Once we have those in place, then we'll end up actually going back to City Council and amending the contract to add the additional funds we need to do the construction phase of the project. So again, it's a little bit different than we've done in the past. In the past, we've tried to take a kind of a guess at the entire amount up front. It's been pretty inefficient. So we're trying a new approach this year where all the awards will be made as pre-development awards. And then once we build out the scope and the cost of the project, we'll go back to City Council to amend the contract to a more accurate amount. Let's talk a little bit more about the NOFA here. We're going to talk about the threshold criteria, what we need to look at to begin as we go through the application. So again, timely submission of the application, your nonprofit status. This is for nonprofit organizations. Submission of any unresolved audit findings and tax issues. Our signed certification form, which is part of the NOFA, articles of incorporation in good standing, and then site control. Site control can be demonstrated by either owning the property or by showing evidence of a long-term lease. Briefly on eligible CDBG costs. So this is what we can pay for in the project. We can pay for material, labor, permits, engineering and architectural work that we discussed as part of the pre-development phase, asbestos survey, and the environmental studies and reports, and additional line items that have to be approved by HRD. Are some ineligible CDBG costs, pre-contract costs, unless it's already been discussed with us. We have had situations in the past where we've added money to a project or there's been some costs that were incurred prior to the contract being executed. As long as we build those into the scope and we discuss that ahead of time, there is a little flexibility there, but generally pre-contract costs, any back taxes, anything that's considered maintenance. CDBG doesn't really pair well with maintenance. This is more for like replacing a roof as opposed to fixing it. Gifts and donations, fixtures, equipment, lobbying, partisan activities, suing the government, luxury line items, administrative costs, income payments, things like that. That's not what we're looking to do here. This religious activities, this question comes up periodically. CDBG in the PFR program, we can fund a project at a religious site as long as the facility and the space is being used to carry out the public service, is not used just for religious worship, the main place of worship, and not discriminating against persons seeking public service based on religion. So for example, if a church had a separate building that they operated a soup kitchen out of, or a homeless shelter or something like that, we could certainly help rehab that facility, but we couldn't do rehab to the church itself. I'm going to talk a little bit about the application, the NOFA. It's broken into 3 sections. So there's an organizational experience section, a financial capacity section, and a project specific section for 100 points total. The organizational experience section has a number of questions. We'll go through these here. First, to provide background on your organization's history, experience serving Detroit, outlining all the services and population served. Describing the strength of your board, including community representation, number of board members who are bonded. Using 2023 demographic information, please describe clients currently serviced by your organization. And will that change as a result of the award? Describing prior experience in grant administration, using the source and type for examples. And then, have you received a PFR award in the last 5 years? So these questions are really designed to give us an idea of the background of your organization, what's the community representation of your board, who are the leadership. I believe that the actual question in the NOFA also asks if there's any vacancies or if you have a plan to fill those vacancies, just to give us an idea of what your organizational leadership is, what your organization does, what clients are served, questions like that. There's also a financial capacity question. When we're partnering with subrecipients, nonprofit organizations, we certainly have to make sure that the organization is financially able to partner and go through with the project. So the first question is describe fiscal management, financial reporting, and accounting systems and audit requirements. Does this comply with 2 CFR, the financial management section? So how does your organization handle its internal accounting and internal reporting? Next question is on internal controls. Describe your accounting procedures, supports efficient segregation of duties. So for example, how do you cut checks? How do you, segregate, the different duties as far as accounting and any other internal controls that your organization might have in place? That leads us similar to the third question. Describe your policies and procedures to ensure timely submission of monthly payment packets, but also you can use this as an opportunity to describe your policies and procedures for organization as a whole, similar to the first two questions. Kind of, we're trying to drive at how does your organization work, what internal controls are in place to make sure that everything runs smoothly and there aren't any questions in terms of segregation of duties. Fourth question is describe the financial capacity and provide proof of cash on hand. The reason that we have this question, and there's a form in the NOFA as well that they'll have you sign. Sometimes when you're doing a construction project, there may be a lag between the time that the general contractor completes the work and the time that the draw is submitted to us for review and for us to reimburse for the costs. If there's any questions that come up, that can also take additional time. So if the general contractor takes a while to compile the draw package, we take a look at the draw package, we may have some questions. There may be certain subcontractors that we either didn't, submit an invoice or a lien waiver or something like that. I mean, we're going to work closely with you. We're going to work closely with the general contractor. But we need to know that if these delays come up, the organization does have some capacity to pay for the draws up front, and then we can reimburse you. In a perfect world, the general contractor, submits a draw, as soon as the month is over, we take a look at it, we pay you, you pay the general contractor can pay out the subs, everything flows smoothly. But as we found out, unfortunately, that doesn't always work that way. So we do want to make sure that as we're partnering with nonprofit organizations, that it is a partnership and that you do have some capacity to help pay for these draws up front if need be, if there are some delays in the reimbursement process. And the last question in the financial capacity section talks about the requirement for a single audit if you have over $750,000 in federal funds in the last year. The last section of the NOFA is the project specifics, and this is the largest section in the questions as far as points are allotted. And this is telling us about your project. What do you want us to, what are we funding for? What's the plan here? So the first question is to describe the project in detail. What is the work to be performed? Presumably you'll have some type of scope of what it is that is to be done. The second question is cost estimates. Have you gone out and have an idea of how much this is going to cost? Are you replacing a roof? Are we replacing HVAC as an electrical system? What is it that we're doing, and how do we know how much it costs? Now, as we move down the line and we get an architect to actually design the scope of the project, and we will put out a bid for general contractors to bid on the project, we'll narrow down these costs and these scopes a little bit more, but we need to come into the NOFA with some kind of idea of what it is you're asking for and what it's going to cost. So we do ask that you go out, get some type of bid from a licensed contractor just to give us an idea of how much the project's going to cost. And we have a budget document that you can complete as well as part of your application so that you have put some thought into what the project is and what it's going to cost. Has a phase 1 environmental site assessment been completed? So before we can start work, we do need to get an authority to use grant funds. That's part of the federal funding, and to do that, we work closely with our environmental team, and they require that a phase 1 and potentially a phase 2, depending on what is found on the grounds. And that will also depend on the type of project, if we're moving dirt or if we're not disturbing the ground, if we're replacing a roof, or is there asbestos involved? All these issues come into play, and they're all different depending on the building and the ground and the scope of the project. So that's why you have a phase 1 environmental that tells us kind of where we need to go from there. We also have a question that explains how the building currently complies with ADA, if that's something that will be addressed in the project. And if the project is shovel ready, meaning do you already have architectural plans? Have you already procured a general contractor to do the work? We certainly want to reward organizations that have put some thought and put some effort into trying to get a shovel ready project together. So if you do have something if you're a little further along and you have done some of this work, you can certainly get some points for that. We have a question: if a master rehab plan or capital needs assessment has been completed. That's a plan that will let us know what are the priorities for your facility. Has someone come in and taken a look and let you know exactly what does need to be completed, or are we just guessing at this point? And an example that we use from a past project is, and we had an organization, this is a ways back, but an organization came in for a bathroom repair, and when the contractors went in, they were replacing some bathrooms, and they looked up and the roof was leaking. Well, we can go ahead and replace the bathrooms, but we can see that the roof's leaking. That should have been a higher priority item. Maybe we shouldn't move forward with the bathrooms until we fix that. And then the scope and the budget of the project kind of falls apart at that point. So you do get some points if you have a master rehab plan or a capital needs assessment or some way to show that you've looked at your building. You've had a third party take a look and say, okay, yes, these are the things that need to be done, and then here's the priority list and how they need to be accomplished. And the last question is, we also ask that you complete our Section 3 requirements, and there's a link in the NOFA where you can fill out what our Section 3 requirements are and what those documents look like. Tips for submitting a great proposal: certainly complete it on time. That's extremely important. Include as much documentation as possible. The more information you give us, the better. The organization has capacity to administer. We will work with you as closely as we can, but these will be what are called subrecipient agreements, meaning we're passing the responsibility to you to manage these projects. So make sure that you do have some capacity to work with the general contractor and manage the project. Make sure that the project clearly addresses improvements, that these improvements comply with ADA, removing any condition, bringing property up to code, anything like that. Answer every question, and any blank answers will receive a 0. And then please do your best to properly name all attachments and forms. It's makes it easy on us if we can look at the attachments that we think we're looking at when they're named correctly. Some other tips: include a detailed budget. There is an Excel budget document that's included in the NOFA. Please fill that out as completely as possible. All sources and commitments should be identified for total project costs. If you do have any additional funding for the project, I think most of the time for PFR projects, we end up funding the entire project, but there are times where you come in where we're filling a gap, and that's great. We certainly encourage that. The more outside funding we can get into a project, the better, but we want to make sure that we have all those committed and identified, and we have all that documentation as part of your application. To be realistic with your funding request, submit quality construction plans and documents if you have those. If you are part of have a shovel-ready project that you have some either architectural drawings or plans, please submit those. Environmental phase 1 if you have it, and then project timeline if you are showing that your project is shovel. It really helps as well. The award process. So like Elizabeth said, applications are due by 3 on September 26th. There'll be a public recording after that at 4 o'clock. It's difficult to say exactly how long it will take us to get through all the applications. It's going to depend on how many there are and how complicated and comprehensive the applications are. But I think Elizabeth's timeline of hopefully starting these in 2025 is an excellent one. And then once we score and review the applications, we have an internal award committee, and then of course we'll recommend these contracts to City Council. Once City Council signs off, again, this is the project phases I talked about earlier. The initial idea is that everything's going to be for a pre-development award for your architectural costs, environmental review. That could be the environmental phase 1, the environmental phase 2 if it's needed. Any of those environmental consultants, we can certainly pay for that with these pre-development costs. And then procurement of a general contractor that may require, typically that requires some type of either a newspaper article or an advertisement or something like that to obtain bids so we competitively procure a contractor. We're looking to pay for those costs in the pre-development portion, and then once we have all of these things, then we'll have a much better idea what the project itself is going to cost. So we'll take whatever the architectural drawings say, put together a bid package, and then we'll look at the bids from the contractors and we'll select a contractor to do the work, and then we'll have an idea of what that project will cost for the construction phase. And that's when we'll go back to City Council to add funds to the contract and start the construction from there. So Elizabeth, I think that's my presentation. Did you want to do questions and answers now, or did you want to go right into Adam so he could show how?
We want to move right into Adam, and then we'll have questions and answers after Adam finishes.
Great. Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Steve. Appreciate that. Adam, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Let me just get the right screen shared.
Okay, great.
Bear with me for 1 moment.
And while Adam is queuing up, after Adam does his presentation, when I go through the key response items, I'll be doing a review of those items in the same request for application that Adam may be bringing up. Or Adam, are you using my live application, or are you in development?
I was playing an application so that it looked just like what folks will see.
Great. Okay.
All right, so here's what I wanted to bring up first. So I'm starting out with this page, not the Oracle page, because I think it is so important to be aware of this resource. If you have any question about navigating Oracle, this is the page you should start with. And I will put in the chat right now the short link to this page that you can follow. So this is www.detroitmi.gov/supplier support. This page has the links you need to get to Oracle. It also, sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you. So it has the links you need to get to Oracle. It has video and written instructions for each of the major processes you might need to do. It even has links to virtual live support sessions if you're struggling with anything with one of these topic areas. So if you're registering for the first time, watch the walkthrough or read through the PDF. They match up perfectly. That should take you through. If you have questions, join one of our live sessions. And the same thing with bidding or updating your existing profile, even submitting an invoice, although you obviously won't be at that step just yet with this particular one. So I always like to highlight this page as a really valuable resource for navigating everything that you need to do when it comes to working in Oracle. With that, let's click over to Oracle. This is the link that would come up if I clicked Bid Now. And I'm going to sign in to a test account so that you can see what it actually looks like to be bidding on this particular opportunity. So we arrive at our landing page. I'm going to click into Supplier Portal. I'm going to go to Search or View Current Bid Opportunities. I believe this one is 185013. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great. The title on the screen shrunk down enough that I couldn't see it. So I'm typing in the negotiation number here. This is the same negotiation number you'll type in, same place. I'm going to go ahead and deselect from the drop downs here, invitation received and response submitted, just to make sure I don't accidentally filter out what I'm looking for. And here is the negotiation that we're talking about, the 24-25 NOFA, CDBG funded. So I'm going to click that blue linked number here. And it's going to take me to the landing page for this opportunity. Now, I'm not going to go through every single component of this right now. If you want to see a full walkthrough of every place you might need to click, again, I encourage you to visit that supplier support page. We have a video here that's about 20 minutes long that will walk you through every single thing you would need to click and what each screen does. So I'm gonna show a few highlights here, but certainly encourage you to look at that page as well for the more comprehensive version. The things I want to highlight here are, first of all, the messages panel. Whenever you come to this page, you'll see that messages link, and any unread messages will be listed in the parenthetical. So there it said paren 2. That meant that there were 2 messages I hadn't read. This is where you can see every question that's been asked, every answer that's been provided. It's where you can use this little plus button to open up an email-like interface with a subject and a body and attachments and send in your own questions. So it's always a good plan to check the messages tab when you start, in case there has been any sort of question that's relevant to you posted, or maybe even just an announcement from Elizabeth or Stephen or someone on the city's team clarifying something that you may have had a question about. So it's always good to double check on the messages and make sure that you're up to date with all the most recent information. There's a very helpful cover page, an overview of the bid. There's also this requirements section, and I want to click into that because this will look a little different than you may have if you've bid on this in previous years, but not as recently. This may look a little different, and I want to show you how this works because we think it's very user friendly, but we want to make sure no one's surprised by it. So we've broken down the requirements into 4 sections: the application, threshold requirements, standard application documents, and conditions of award. And you can see below exactly what's required in each of these sections. You can honestly use this like a checklist and say, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to be asked about when I'm submitting my application within Oracle. So rather than needing to attach a lot of documents in the overview section, which you may have done for another bid, in this case, you'll do all of your document attaching right in the requirements section. And one benefit of that is that if you accidentally miss a required attachment, the system will not let you submit. It will give you an error message and it will say, hey, you're missing your budget, go back and attach it. Or you're missing your annual nonprofit report, go back and attach it. So this makes it very easy to get all the required information in before you hit submit. I'm going to go ahead and click create response now. I do encourage you when you're on the page for real to click through each of these and read all of this information. But I want to be respectful of time and leave as much time as possible for questions, both for me and for the other experts on the call. So I'm going to click create response. This is what you'll see when you click create response. You'll see 4 buttons up here: overview, requirements, lines, and review. Overview, you won't actually need to put anything in here. You can fill in a note to the buyer or your own internal reference number or something if you wish, but the places where you'll definitely need to fill in information are requirements and lines. So for the requirements, as you'll see, they're broken down into sections. You can navigate those sections using the drop down here or the arrow buttons here. And as you answer these questions, they will prompt you for any required documents. So to use this as an example, the first question asks you to confirm that you've read the information application guide. Once you click confirmed, you're all set. You don't need to attach anything, so it won't prompt you for anything. You're good with that question. The next question will ask you to download and complete section 3 of the application. Here, you've got some attachments, and notice that it says one more here. You always want to click on that one more to open up all of the attachments that are attached here. You can download these by simply clicking on them. They'll download automatically in your browser. You'll be able to open those up, read them, edit them, complete the application. And then once you're ready to complete the application, once you've completed the application, you're ready to attach, you'll click upload. A prompt will pop up that shows you that response attachments are required. And you'll click the plus sign again, and then you'll choose a file from your computer to attach. So you can pick whatever file you want. I'm just picking one at random. And it will upload here. And as soon as this blue circle stops spinning, you'll be able to click OK. And now you've uploaded a document. Now, be advised, the system is not smart enough to tell you if the document you uploaded isn't the document that was asked for. So it would not throw an error message here, even though I have not attached the completed section 3 of the application. I've attached something else, but it will handle the situation well if you click upload, but forget to include the response attachments. It will give you a message to go back and say you clicked upload, but you didn't attach anything. You need to go back and attach. As I said, you can navigate through with these drop downs. The asterisks show you anything that is required. If you don't see an asterisk, it is optional. And you'll notice in some of the answer choices, they will also note when it's not required. So audit findings is a good example. If there are no audit findings or tax issues and you click confirmed, that'll be the end of that question for you. If you click upload, that response attachments field will pop up and you'll need to attach something. So this really does guide you through each of the sections that you're required to fill out. Sections 1, 2, and 3 are, well, all the sections are required questions. Sections 1, 2, and 3 are going to involve you completing documents and attaching them quite a bit. Section 4 is slightly different. These are conditions of award. So with each of these, you will have the option to acknowledge a requirement, but not have anything to attach just yet. For example, maybe you have started the process of completing the city's treasury clearance. So maybe you're going to click application completed. You can optionally attach a screenshot or something, but you don't have to. But you don't need to be approved in the city's treasury for the city's treasury clearance until you're actually at the point of being awarded a subrecipient agreement. So these conditions of award, you still need to answer the questions here, but some of your answers we understand may be that this is pending, it's not completed yet. The one other thing I want to note here is the lines section. This is part of every response that gets submitted by an organization within Oracle. In this case, your job is really easy. You simply are going to put your entire requested amount in the response price field. So if you are requesting $50, you'd put 50 in the response price field, and that would be your completed section for lines. This is a required field though, so if you do get an error reminding you to complete the lines, you fill in this one field and you are all done.
Adam,
And then
before you leave that screen, this is Elizabeth.
Go ahead.
In the live production, it is estimated total amount. It's the estimated total amount as opposed to response price.
The estimated total amount, no, it's the response price. This is the live production version.
All right, your screen looks different than mine. I'm in live now, also. So
Okay.
I'll address that when I do my view. And listen, the reason we're even discussing this for everyone on the call is your total amount, your cost proposal will be what I read when I indicate which organizations requested funding.
Right. But Elizabeth, I believe that this is what they will see because I'm in the supplier view.
Oh, you're in supplier view.
I'm doing this as a supplier. So I believe that what everyone on this call will see as they fill this out is a blank for response price, and that is what they should fill out.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes. So My pleasure. So once you're ready to submit, you'll just go to review. You'll be able to click through and see exactly what you answered in each section, what you attached, so on and so forth. You can always go back and make changes. You can also always save. You've got a save button here. And if you need to save and come back later, click the drop down, click save and close, and you can come back to your response later on. Again, I'm going quickly through some of this, but the how to respond to bids video and the how to respond to bids PDF will walk you through every single step of this in painstaking detail, so that you know exactly how to get back to a draft application once you've saved it, so that you know how to properly access the messages and create a message. It has all of those details set up for you. And then when you're all done and everything looks the way you expect it to look from the requirements to the lines, you'll go ahead and click submit. Now, if I click submit here, I'm going to get a big error message that says you haven't finished your requirements section, and I'll have to go back and finish the requirements section. But in a nutshell, that is how you can submit your response for this opportunity. And if you do have any questions, I know I'm a broken record about this, but if you do have any questions, start with the supplier support page. Feel free to visit us at one of these times posted just by clicking on the link to open the Teams meeting. And if you really can't get an answer from this page, you're also welcome to scroll down and send an email or in an emergency situation, make a call to chat with one of our procurement experts and get assistance that way. So we're really excited for you to submit your proposals or your applications for this opportunity. And we are here to help make sure this is as smooth a process as possible. With that, I will turn it back over to Elizabeth, and I'll stay on to answer any questions that folks have about the Oracle piece of this, if there aren't.
Thank you so much, Adam. Appreciate you. So we'll see if there are any questions. If so, we're going to take about 5 minutes to address any questions you may have. And then that's regarding Oracle navigation. We have the questions that you submitted for the request for application. We'll do that afterwards. Adam and his team are extremely busy, and so we appreciate him being available and Cedric also being on the call, monitoring this. All right, Linda, go right ahead.
Hi, thanks. My Oracle question
Now,
is,
Linda, I'm sorry, Linda, what's the organization you represent?
oh, Detroit Rescue Mission Ministries.
Okay.
So yeah, is there a certain naming convention we're supposed to use when we're uploading the documents? Because they have they're pretty easily identified if they're in that space, but.
They are pretty easily identified. The question prompts do, when there is a preferred naming convention, they do specify that. So as you go through the requirements, I think what you'll see is that some of those requirements, so some of those individual questions will say, here, I can share my screen again, provide an example. So attach your IRS nonprofit designation letter, label as attachment 3.2.1 nonprofit designation. So they will give you the text that they will tell you what to name each file as you upload it.
Okay, okay.
And you're able to see these in the, before you get into before you're creating your response, when you're at the home screen for the bid, which is the first thing I showed, if you are looking at the requirements, you can click and see those details. So as I said, you can use that like a checklist here. So you can see that you have the option to preview the questionnaire from here, or even just click on an individual question element and see exactly what's going to be asked, including the naming convention.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. And A. Nzeri Kwabena, you had a question?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Very quickly, this is my first time experiencing this opportunity, so thank you. We must register in Oracle and then proceed to apply?
That is exactly right. And the supplier support page will walk you through the registration process as well. Registration is quite quick. It's something that you'll click the register now button. It'll probably take you under 10 minutes to get registered. We'll just ask you for some very basic information about your organization. And then that will, including contact information for you with an email address, and then that will let you create a login that you can use to get into the bidding interface.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Great. And Kwabena and Zeri Kwabena, what organization do you represent?
Forgive me for not addressing myself formally. I'm the executive director of LGBT Detroit.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. So again, just a reminder, if you give your name and the organization that you represent as you were asking your questions or making your comments. Anthony Jackson.
Hello, Anthony Jackson with CNS Healthcare. I had a question about the the initial $50,000 and the $300,000 minimum. If you are chosen in that $50,000, will that be subtracted from the bid, the minimum amount, the 300,000, if you're awarded that, or is that totally separate?
Okay, Anthony, I'm sorry. This segment of questions is related just to Oracle. If you can hold that question,
Sure thing.
we'll get to that after we conclude this. So these questions are for Anthony, for Adam or his team. And these are just navigation questions. Any questions you have regarding the application itself, we will address those shortly. Linda, I see your hand is up. Is that from your previous question?
Yeah,
or is this?
No, I do have a second question regarding the requirements.
Okay.
Again, Detroit Rescue Mission Ministries. So for the audit findings, are
Okay,
we?
Linda?
Yeah.
We're not there yet. This
Okay.
has everything with Oracle right now. This is what we're addressing, Oracle navigation.
Okay.
We'll get to the content questions for the application after we finish this segment.
Elizabeth
Okay,
is
thank you.
protecting me because I have zero answers when it comes to anything related to content. But that is a good thing to make sure is clear on the call. All the information you'll find on the supplier support page and all the information you'll find by contacting the e-procurement team or visiting one of our sessions is not going to be content specific. It's going to be how do I get my document uploaded? How do I get logged in? Questions like that, not is this an acceptable form of a budget, or does it count as an audit finding if I've had this? Those are perfectly valid questions, but my team will never be able to help you with those. So just trying to save folks time.
Thank you, Adam. Sister Satrice, if you'll indicate your full name and the organization you represent, and if your question is related to navigating the request for application, then we'll take it at this time. If it's not, then hold it for just a few moments when we get into the content part of the application section. Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Patrice Coleman Betts. I'm with St. Patrick's Senior Center. I know you mentioned in about right when you go to submit. I remember one year we couldn't get it to submit. We under the wire. So it was saying if you did something, you had to go back. I didn't catch all of what you said.
Yep. So if you're missing any required information, so if you haven't responded to a required question, you haven't attached an attachment to a question that requires an attachment. If I click submit right now, I'm going to get an error message. It's going to think about it for a while and realize that I've missed a bunch of things, and it's going to tell me that I'm missing information in sections 1 and 2 of requirements. So that's all I was talking about. That when you click submit, if you get this error message, it's not the system melting down. It's the system helpfully telling you, hey, you need to go back and make sure that anywhere you've got an asterisk next to a question number, one of the radio buttons is checked. and anywhere you've got an asterisk next to response attachments, you've got something attached. So in this case, what I'm missing here is a response attachment, right? I need to upload something in response to this question.
Okay. Okay,
So
thank you.
it's just trying to make it as easy as possible or trying to make it as hard as possible to accidentally submit an incomplete application when you've already gone to the trouble to gather everything and you just miss, one of the 20 attachments that you're including.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sonia Bennett.
Good afternoon. My name is Sonia Bennett. I am representing Beth Eden Missionary Baptist Church. Just a very simple question. I have already signed up for an Oracle account. I would just like to know, is it mobile friendly? Because majority of the things that we do now are on our phones or tablets and things of that nature. Is it mobile friendly, or do you recommend being on some type of laptop or desktop?
We strongly recommend being on a laptop or desktop. There are certain parts of the Oracle interface that are fairly mobile friendly, but the bidding interface is not one of them. So we very much recommend that you create your response from a desktop or laptop platform rather than from a mobile device. Great question.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And let's see, I see Sean Foreman and then Sister Satrice. Do you have another question?
Nope, gotta put my hand down. Sorry.
Okay, all right. So Sean Foreman.
I'm the executive director of Promise, which stands for Peers Responding to Overlooked Matters in Social Environments. And I was wondering, is there a paper copy of the application that can be printed out? Sometimes, having that hard copy makes a difference as opposed to answering the questions just strictly on the computer.
So
yes, go right ahead, Adam.
If you've got, go for it. If you've got a.
So the answer is yes. You can access in two ways. Thank you, Adam. So if you're registered, you're able to download while you're in Oracle, going through the requirements page, because it's going to be your first item in the application section. There are 3 items in the application section. And yes, you may download because we want you to download the Word document and we want you to upload a Word document back into Oracle when you were submitting your application. The application budget is an Excel spreadsheets, and yes, you may download that and then upload that also. And Adam,
Great.
you were
Thank
going
you
to
so
show.
much.
You're welcome. You were going to show those who are not registered in Oracle how they
Right.
can download
So-
from our website, right?
Right. Well, so there are 2 different things you might want to download here. And Elizabeth addressed this one, which is where there are attachments like the frequently asked questions document, like the NOFA application document. Those can be downloaded once you're within Oracle. And downloaded straight from the questions, and then you can print them or do whatever you want with them, just like a normal document or PDF. Before you're even registered, though, if you go to view current bid opportunities, so this is our website, detroitmi.gov/supplier. If you scroll down to this orange box, view current bid opportunities, and then you search for 185013. Oh, you know what, Elizabeth, I think you just posted this, so it may not have refreshed yet.
Okay.
That's not your fault. That's why it's not showing up right now. I think if you check back in a couple of hours, it'll be up certainly by tomorrow.
And you know what? It may be because I'm in it. So let me exit.
No, that won't affect it. You're good.
Okay. Well,
but if you search for 185013 in a little while and it's up on this site, you can click this little details panel and you can see all the attached documents And you can download the negotiation PDF. I don't know why I got an error on that particular one, but this negotiation PDF will give you the sort of outline version of the negotiation that includes all of the questions. So you could use that like a checklist. And I'm sure this one has that available. I'm trying to find one that would be a good example for you.
Now,
But
I did exit from Oracle, Adam.
it's a question of how often it refreshes. It won't make a difference. I promise.
Okay.
I appreciate it, but I promise it won't make a big difference. But if you do download that negotiation PDF from here, you'll see something like this, and it will include a printed version of everything that you just saw me walk through in Oracle, from general information and schedule all the way to what's attached, and then even getting into what the requirements are. So that would be another way to print it out. But I want to make sure it's totally clear. The source of truth for everything is the online Oracle application. So no matter what you prepare or how you prepare it offline using a printed document, what matters and what gets evaluated is what you submit in Oracle as your response. If there is a question that is asked in that create response interface, it is going to require an answer, regardless of whether it was on a summarized document that was printed. So please do make sure that you go into this online version of the application well in advance of the deadline to make sure that you're looking at every single thing that's required.
Okay, great. Thank you, Adam. All right, I'm not seeing any other hands.
All right.
Okay, someone just raised a hand. So Cleophas, is this regarding Oracle navigation, or is this?
I hope so, Ayana. My name is Cleo Bradley with Detroit Catholic Pastoral Alliance. Is there a way for the applicant to be the subrecipient, or not be the subrecipient, and the subrecipient not be the applicant, or?
Okay, all right. So for that question, the applicants will, if we accept your application and recommend it for award, you would then become a subrecipient, and we would then have the subrecipient agreement. Now, the subrecipient agreement, I did post a sample copy.
Okay.
It's not on the requirements page, it's on the overview page. So
Okay.
it's on the overview tab. Adam, I'm sorry. Could you go to the overview tab? And see where it says sample, not current HRD 2020, 2021. That is a sample subrecipient agreement.
Okay.
So that document, we would want you to review it, see if there's any language that you have exceptions about that is contained there. And when you submit your application, you would submit a marked copy of this sample subrecipient agreement for any language that you want our law department to consider changing. Okay?
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see, Arlette Kim, is this the Oracle navigation question? Arlette, are you there? You're on mute if you're speaking.
Sorry, I was muted and I couldn't get it to stop. Yes, it is. I was Arlette Kemp, CNS Healthcare. I was wondering if Adam could quickly show us if you accidentally upload the wrong document and you need to unattach that and reattach the corrected document. I didn't see how that was.
What a good question. Yes, happily. So let's use the one that I had as the example, right? I've attached COD agency codes, but oops, that's the wrong one. So I'm going to click the plus sign again. You always start with the plus sign. If I want to delete, I'll click, I'll move over to the left side of the line and I'll see this black arrow. I'll click that and then I'll click this X here. That removes it. It'll prompt me just to make sure that I'm actually doing, I am deleting this. So I'll say yes, that'll remove it. Then I'll click the plus sign again, choose file, and pick a different file from my computer.
Excellent. Thank you.
And you can do that as many times as you need to. The other thing I think I mentioned, but just to make sure we're clear, if you are submitting more than one attachment, that's absolutely fine. You'll just click the plus sign again, choose file, and click a different attachment from your computer, and then that will be attached as well. So you can submit multiple attachments. You can submit multiple formats. This is a PDF. This is a Word document. You can submit Excel files. So you can submit multiple different attachments of multiple different types using this interface. And clicking OK does not finalize anything in any way. You can always go back to that plus sign and delete or add documents as you see fit.
Great. Thank you, Adam. And Cleophas, I see your hand is up. Is that from the previous question or is this an additional question? Cleophas Bradley. Okay, I'm not getting a response. You're on mute if you are speaking. Okay, I'm going to assume that his hand was up from the previous question then. All right, this is last call for any other questions regarding Oracle navigation. Very good. Thank you so much, Adam. We appreciate you being available to assist us.
My pleasure. Thank you all. Best of luck. And again, please don't hesitate to visit that Detroit MI/supplier support page with any questions. And that will also have information that will let you connect with my team to ask questions as you're going. But we're really confident that the information on that page is going to help answer almost every question. So that's a great starting spot always. Best of luck.
Thanks,
Thank
Adam.
you again.
All right, Elizabeth. Do you want me to just start going through the chat questions? Is that a fair place to start?
Well, why don't we start with the questions that we received from the September 4th deadline. Okay. Let's go through those and then we'll get to the ones that are in the chat.
Perfect.
And for those of you, let's see, while he's doing that, I'm going to share, let's see, I'm going to share my screen so that you can see what the Word document application looks like if you've not yet accessed it. So I'm sharing my screen and this is what the Word document application looks like if you want to, and you're encouraged to download it so that you can work from it and put your narrative information in here. So this document includes the instructions as well as the portion of the application starting on page 12 that you need to begin addressing for your response. Some people submit the whole document. You're welcome to do that. You don't have to segment it up if you don't want to. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing that and go right ahead then, Steve. Do you want me to bring up the questions that we had? I know I sent you some some earlier this morning that came in late Friday. Oh, great. All right.
I think I have it. Thank you. And I haven't had a chance to respond in writing to those, but we can still talk about them, right?
Yes.
Okay. The first question was about receiving a Kresge grant to purchase a home at Brightmoor, transform into a resource hub for families we serve, including our teen and young moms. We currently have a contract with the realtor to buy the home, but do not have site control yet. Can we still apply? So in the response here, site control is a threshold item. Certainly will need to be satisfied before any awards can be made. If obtaining that site control is imminent, it's going to happen like in the very near future. If you could just submit all the supporting documentation you have, we could certainly try to make that determination best we can. But the site control is something that we certainly need to have before we can make any type of award. Question 2 says, Mark, our 5th year operating a Girl Like Me Inc. So far, we've conducted an independent review of our finances. However, we have not undergone a full audit due to our smaller size. We've consistently secured funding each year since our establishment. Our 2 largest grants this year coming from Pick and Kresge, totaling $200,000. Sorry, I didn't know how to pronounce that one. We do have 3 years worth of tax returns as well. Yeah, we would say just submit whatever you have. And I think there's a similar question in the chat as well. Just submit any financial documentation that you have to review, and we will certainly take that into account for newer and smaller organizations. Question 3 regarding the question, project description, has a phase 1 environmental assessment been completed? That's the rest of the question. Is a completed phase 1 assessment required to apply? If not, should I assume the answer is no, that no points will be received for the question? Yeah, we're certainly trying to reward organizations that have a phase 1 already. It's not required to apply, and anything that's required to apply is really in that threshold section. It's not required to apply, but yeah, you do need to have that completed to receive the points for that question. Question 4, is there a separate application for orgs who choose to apply only for pre-development funding? Can orgs apply for both pre-development and construction in this cycle? It's a great question. So our answer is there's not a separate application. All PFR projects have a pre-development and a development phase. If city funding is only needed for one of these phases, documentation will need to be provided to show how the rest of the project will be funded. And this next part is crucial here. HRD is required to collect beneficiary data for all CDBG projects. This means that even if city funding is only used for pre-development costs, that project still must complete the construction phase. Applicants to this NOFA are eligible for both pre-development and construction funding. So certainly, if you don't need pre-development funding, or if you only need pre-development funding, we are happy to partner with other funding sources. That's fantastic to hear, but just understand that these projects have to have a construction portion. We have to be able to report back to HUD, and we have to put it into our federal system what we accomplished. That looks like, X number of people were benefited, and they were, all of them were low mod individuals, or this percentage of them were low moderate income individuals. We have to just show that. And if we only fund the pre-development portion, for example, that's fine, but there has to be a construction portion. Like a project has to take place. We can't just, fund, architectural drawings and then nothing happens with them. That's not an option. Question 6 here. We are currently preparing our submission and want to clarify a specific point regarding the application process. Our entity manages 2 separate public facilities within the city. I'd like to know if it's permissible to submit a separate application for each entity, or if one application will be considered per entity, regardless of the number of facilities operated. We appreciate your guidance in this matter to ensure our submission in line with the requirements of the RFA. Yeah, you can apply for multiple facilities. Just separate applications are required for each facility. And some of these here, Elizabeth, are newer, so I'll do the best I can, and certainly will respond in writing as quickly as possible. Question 7, can organizations submit bids for 2 separate building sites with 2 separate applications based on 2 previously completed master rehab plans? Yes, certainly. If you have separate applications, the separate sites would be separate applications because the answers to the questions be different. There may be, serving different clients. In one instance, the project itself would be different. That's certainly separate applications. Question 8, can organizations awarded ARPA funding by the city under this NOFA for accessibility renovation submit an application for this NOFA provided accessibility repairs funded by the first one are excluded from the bid? I think I understand this question. And they have similar for Part B. And the answer is yes. You can certainly apply even if you've received funding for different ARPA funding or even different funding for other applications. We just have to be specific that we're not paying for the same items twice, whether it be a different project or different items. If you need to expand the scope of the original project, we just have to be a very clear delineation between projects and between project costs, what we're paying for. But you can certainly continue to apply for funding. Question 9, regarding required documents, notarized affidavit, certificate of authority, how long are they valid? For example, if we had them signed back in January 2024 or previous months, can we resubmit these for this NOFA, or do they expire, so to speak?
So there is an expiration date that we use, 12 months. So if you submitted it in January 2024, but it expires September 30th, 2024, you need to provide us with a new document. So again, those affidavits are notarized. If the notary expires on the document, then that is an expired document, even if you submitted it in January 2024. So it's important. We can't give a blanket, yes here. The documents need to be unexpired. So for all documents that we work with, we're looking at a 12-month expiration date. For instance, insurance, the insurance certificate, or the SAM certificate, they have specific expiration dates on them. The certificate of authority, if you submitted that in January, then we would look to see what was the date that your secretary of your organization signed and dated it. So was it from December 31st, 2023, but you submitted it in January 2024? That means that would be fine. It wouldn't be expired. But so rather than us trying to give you a blanket yes or no on these in terms of you resubmitting, look at each of your documents and see whether or not they are expiring soon or have already expired. Now, the certificate of authority is important because that lets us know who is authorized to submit an application for this opportunity. So enough for me about question 9. You can go forward, Steve.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I really appreciate that. Question 10, and I did read these before, and I was a little confused on this one. It says price precision is stated as a 2. What does that mean, Elizabeth? I'm at a loss here. I'm not sure what they're referring to.
And I'm not sure either. It sounds like it may have been an Oracle related question, and it could be in the Oracle system in the lines area that Adam was showing everyone, where you're going to indicate your total project cost, the total project cost. So if the person is on this call who submitted that question, you certainly can clarify for us. In fact, I know who submitted that question.
Hi, it's Christy Schmiggy, NCADD.
Yes.
And it was just, if you look at the original document that you sent to
is this the application?
It's the document that you sent when you let us know that it says request for application on the front. It has the RFA number. It says that this, when it's due. It's not the application itself that I found.
Oh, you must be speaking to the cover page in Oracle.
Perhaps. But yeah, it was just a little strange detail that I just wasn't sure if it was relevant, but it's at the top of page 7. At the left, it's a short page. It says USD, payment terms net 30, freight terms none, shipping method as arranged, FOB none, negotiation currency USD, US dollar, and then underneath that it says price precision, number 2. And then there's a little paper clip. And then under that it says 1.6 attachments, file name or URL.
Yeah, Elizabeth, I'm thinking is there an Oracle generated cover page that goes with these NOFAs?
Yes, and that's what I'm thinking. Is it Karen?
Christy.
I believe that's the only thing that I can conceive that it may be.
Well, and then the following page, number 8, it goes through the requirements, 2, 2.1, 3, and it lists everything, the documents that are required, and it gives you hints of things that you should look at, but there's just that it's probably nothing. I just didn't know if it was relevant or not.
Well, I'm on page 7 of the application, and I'm not seeing
this
anything.
Isn't the application.
It's on the NOFA, the RFP on page 7, and I think it's probably relevant to some other proposal.
It's an Oracle, correct?
Yeah, and it's that when you originally sent us our invitation for this meeting and to apply.
Okay, I've got you.
It's in that document.
And that was an Oracle generated invitation. Yes. So you don't need to be concerned with that impacting your response.
Okay. Just wasn't sure. I appreciate that.
No, that's a great.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Can I assume that question 11 is along the same lines? Your alternate lines, line details, is this a?
Yes, that was from that same document. There's an example there where it that is on page 12 of that document that I was referencing. Number 3.1, 3 and 3.1, it talks about line details, and then on page 13, 4.2, it gives an alternate lines template. And I just didn't know what it was talking about because it's
Right.
very different than the attached Excel spreadsheet.
So those are background documents that are a part of the Oracle system. You do not need to be concerned with those.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, question 12. Strength of board questions. Can you describe what's being sought here? We're really just looking for what is the makeup of a board? What is the community representation? For example, if you're a homeless shelter, do you have someone that's experienced homelessness perhaps on the board? Vacancies are, yeah, we're looking for officers. We don't have a required template or anything. Just answer that question as detailed as you can, just to give us an idea of the leadership of the organization. Do we have any timeline requirements? No, we're just looking for kind of what is your plan. Do you have, a single member board with 5 open seats or something like that? Just give us an idea of what the leadership structure is and what's the community representation. And again, if there are vacant positions open, are they, actively being filled, stuff like that. Is there specific reporting structure for this program? So this is, I think there's actually 2 questions here. So we do have reporting that is required for the project itself. That's the beneficiary data that we will put into our federal system. The financial capacity question here, though, in this section of the NOFA, talking about financial management, we're looking for how your organization is being run. So all those questions in the financial section that talks about your accounting policies and procedures, your internal. We're not telling you that you need to have a certain reporting structure for your organization. We're just asking what that is. What are your internal controls? What is your accounting policies and procedures? Stuff like that. That's what that section is aiming for. Question 14. The item is based on the contractors hired. Typically, a general contractor is paid on a progress basis, payments basis. Will this be the case? We certainly hope so. I think, as I discussed during the presentation, in a perfect world, certainly a general contractor, puts a draw together, submits it to you, you submit it to us, we review it, we reimburse those costs. For you to be able to pay the general contractor, and the general contractor to be able to pay the subcontractors. But as I think I mentioned in the presentation, there's certainly several situations that can arise that it doesn't work as smoothly as that. So the financial capacity to pay for costs up front is first of all the understanding that CDBG typically works on a reimbursement basis and have some capacity to partner with us in case of delays in payment. The city review process can sometimes take some time, depending on how well organized the draw may be, or if there's any questions that arise. There are a number of departments that look at draws, not just HRD, also our finance department, our grants department. We just want there to be some capacity to pay for these draws as they come up. When we understand that, we try to encourage as many local general contractors, subcontractors as possible, and if draws go 2 or 3 months without being paid, that certainly puts a lot of pressure on these smaller contractors that we try to encourage. All right, question 15. Is it correct to assume the construction activities will begin after the funding has been made available? Yeah, so once to know how the process works, and I think I went over this in the presentation a little bit, is once the award has been made and City Council has approved the project, then we'll meet back with you and we'll discuss the process of going through the pre-development items. Once the pre-development has been completed, then we'll move into the construction phase. but this is the CDBG program is we reimburse from costs. So there's no funding up front, if that's what this question's getting at. You'll submit invoices working with your general contractor. The general contractor will complete the AIA form with all the supporting documentation and lien waivers and stuff like that to us, and then we'll reimburse for those costs. There's no upfront payment, if that's kind of what this is getting at. Question 16 says, please clarify the expectations. I'm assuming that's associated.
Related to question 15, yes.
Perfect, great. Question 17, do you consider the project to be the entire facility rehab as a whole? The project will be whatever is the scope that's being submitted and the associated budget with that. So if it's a roof replacement, then the project will be considered the roof replacement. If it's if we're replacing bathrooms, it would be the bathrooms as well. That's what the project is. Whatever the scope and the budget and what your ask of the city is, your funding request. Question 18, or are specific sub-project items within the facility considered to be individual projects? Regarding that the facility has multiple needs, are we to identify each project in detail with the associated costs and have multiple projects listed in this NOFA application to encompass the facility-wide rehab that is needed? Now, if there's multiple items that you want to be included in your application, you can include that in a single application. So if there's a roof replacement and a bathroom replacement that your facility needs and it's been identified, you can include that as a single project. When we make awards, we draft a subrecipient agreement that gets presented to City Council. We'll specifically identify the scope and the budget for what we're considering the project, which is all rehabilitation items that have been approved. Question 19, I think, is on the environmental. Can you please provide clarification on this item? In a case where the facility has no environmental issues, if there is a need to address any environmental issues, what documents are required? So the environmental phase 1 is the hiring of an environmental consultant to complete that phase 1, which will work closely with our environmental team to see if that's sufficient or if additional environmental consultant work is needed. Before any federal funding can be committed to a project, we have to get what's called an authority to use grant funds. And we work closely with our environmental team to make sure that the project site has cleared all the environmental steps needed to this authority to use grant funds. So the environmental work is going to be part of every project. Question 20, ADA requirements were identified in the master rehab plan. Is there anything else needed specific to ADA aside from the rehab plan already developed? I'm not sure exactly what this question is looking for. Anything that's identified in the master rehab plan, certainly the top priority items would be eligible for submission to this NOFA. We don't identify any specific ADA upgrades. That would be facility by facility. So, yeah, if anyone can provide clarity on that question, certainly speak up. Question 21, please define and clarify project readiness. Is there a specific documentation needed to address this item? Yeah. Anytime we're talking about project readiness or shovel-ready projects, we're trying to give an opportunity for applicants that have done some of the earlier stages of the project to receive extra points. We certainly want to reward organizations that have already gone out and have some of the pre-development work done. If you have engaged an architect to scope a project, if you have procured a general contractor to either design plans or to actually bid on a project, your internal policies and procedures may outline how to competitively procure a contractor to do work. You may already have 3 bids, and you may already have selected a contractor. You may have already received an environment, or procured an environmental phase 1. And any of these early pre-development items that have been completed speak to the ability for your project to be considered more of shovel ready. What we don't want is to take the CDBG funds and put them into projects that are going to take multiple years before they're ready to go. I mean, we certainly will if you have a great project, and you need that pre-development services. That's what we're here for. It's not to discourage anyone from applying. That's part of the pre-development phase, is to pay for that. But we also want to be mindful of organizations that are a little bit further along, and if we can get through those projects a little bit more rapidly, we want to reward those organizations as well.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. So now we can go to the questions that are in chat, and I think some of the questions in chat may have been addressed by some of the responses you just gave us. So,
Okay. Yeah, I can run through these. Thank you. I think I'm going back to Tree's got this link. Okay, is pre-development phase required for all projects? Yes. I mean, you have to have the architectural work to design. You need an architect in the project. The architect's going to be part of the project the entire time. It's going to be signing off on AIA forms and stuff like that. You may already have that stuff completed, so you may not need the funding for it, but certainly there's going to be pre-development phase in all projects. What if you already completed pre-development activities? Then certainly include all that documentation in your application. If you need us to come in and you have the environmental phase 1 architectural drawings, you've competitively procured a general contractor, then yeah, that's a shovel-ready project. We're certainly willing to look at that application, but again, include all that documentation. Is the deck available to us afterwards? Certainly, I will send Elizabeth this deck, and she'll be able to post it. Are expenses for development, demolition of newly acquired structures eligible? I believe they are under CDBG, not necessarily. So not for this program. Our expenses for development of newly acquired structures, we can certainly help you rehab a newly acquired structure. We have to be very specific about what the uses of that structure are going to be, though, because again, we have to report that beneficiary data. So if it's not actively serving people, it's going to be difficult to answer some of the questions in terms of client readiness, or not client clients currently being served.
Christopher, I see your hand up, and I see you were the one who gave us that question. Go right ahead with your clarification.
Yeah, I'm Christopher Dyer-Scalisi, representing Covenant House Mission. A little bit, we are an existing shelter operation, and we recently acquired some new facilities adjacent to our existing shelter and transitional housing operation, and those buildings would be incorporated into those activities that we currently operate. But right now they're they're in need of a lot of development, and 2 of the structures are actually being demolished, but there are others that we're planning on incorporating as structures for our facilities.
Okay, great. Thank you, Christopher. I certainly appreciate that. Anytime we can add capacity to the system, right? If we could rehab a structure that then puts it into use, we're certainly excited to include that and to look at that application. The demolition of a structure, that's not something that we really get into. Hold on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Next question is, are any of the items on Any of the items on project specific mandatory can't submit without. I mean, aside from the threshold items, I don't think there's anything that's necessarily mandatory. You just won't get the points for that question. So if you leave a question blank or if you don't submit an attachment, you just won't be able to get the points for that. We are currently awaiting master rehab plan assessment report conducted earlier this year. Will that be taken into consideration even if it has not been delivered by the deadline? Yeah, if you have a master rehab plan that's either in process, if you just give us an idea of when that will be wrapped up, but we can certainly take that into account. Is a master rehab plan considered a construction plan? No, master rehab plan is like a capital needs assessment. It lets us know what the priority items that need to be rehabbed in your facility are. A construction plan is more of, at least if I'm understanding this question correctly, is working with an architect to design the actual specifications. So of a roof replacement, what's that going to look like? What are the specs? What are the materials? Stuff like that. If a proposal is successful, when is the earliest that funds would be distributed? That's difficult to project. Again, it's going to depend on how quickly we can review and score the applications and make our recommendations to City Council for approval. But the wording of that question, the funds aren't going to be distributed up front. This is a reimbursement process. So we would work with you to find an architect to design the scope. We would work with you to work to find environmental consultants to get the environmental clearance we need. And then, once those invoices have been submitted to us, we can then reimburse you. But this isn't a process where you're awarded and we're going to give you, distribute the funds for you to go do this project. It's, we're partnering with you and we're going through the project, but the funds are distributed as a reimbursement basis once those draws are submitted and reviewed. So once the pre-development is done, City Council decides whether okay to move into the construction phase. Yeah, this is a good question. I think there's another one in here similar to it. There's always the risk with needing to go to City Council twice that there may be some hiccups moving from the pre-development to the development phase. We are in constant contact with City Council members so that they understand, and this is why we work extremely hard to vet these projects as best we can up front so that we know that they are solid projects with well-qualified applicants, so we don't run into these issues. But we do, are constantly in communication with City Council that we're all on the same page in terms of, once we have these pre-development awards through City Council, the expectation is that, again, assuming that all the procurement is followed correctly and it still makes sense for us to use a CDBG in this manner, that they would be approved from City Council. But there certainly is a possibility that a pre-development award could possibly not be approved to move to the construction phase. Can we use the money to purchase property? So CDBG is eligible for acquisition. We possibly could look at an acquisition supporting that type of project, but we have to show in the federal system who is benefiting from the project. So if we were to support a project that is the acquisition of property, it would have to be with the understanding that immediately would go into use to support a public service. So for example, if we're purchasing a homeless shelter, that shelter has to be able to be put into service right away, because we have to report again to the federal government what the beneficiaries are. So I guess it's possible. I haven't seen it before. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm raising my hand because I put in the question. My name is E.B. Jordan. I have an organization called S&D PJ Housing. I'm helping women returning home from prison, and I wanted to purchase a house for them to parole to. And so that's why I asked the question.
Okay. Thank you, first of all, for the question and for joining. If it's a single family house, I'm not sure that that would qualify as a public facility. We have HRD does have single family housing projects, but that's not what this is. This is public facility rehab. So this is more designed for community centers, homeless shelters, senior centers, educational centers, stuff
Okay,
like that.
it's that's fine. I just want to know, can we use it to purchase? So thank you.
I appreciate the question. Thank you.
If I may add, this is a commenter from LGBT Detroit. I was the person who put a thumbs up to that question. I'm glad that she asked that question. So we would be interested in adding on to a public space. Is this process the same process to make that request if needed, or is there another department or form that we fill out?
You mean if you want to request funding for acquisition to add to a public facility, you can do it through here. It's not necessarily exactly what we're targeting, but it's certainly allowable. If there's a situation where we're adding, again, if we can somehow add capacity to the system, for example, let's say homeless shelters. We're happy to work with nonprofits that operate homeless shelters and rehab them the best we can. But if we're always looking to add to the system as well, so if we can help a nonprofit that's looking to bring another facility online, we're happy to look at that application. I don't mean to always go back to the same point. Just be mindful that if we are going to be supporting the acquisition of a property, it has to be one that's going to be immediately put into use. We can't spend CDBG to purchase a property and then not have any beneficiary information to put in.
I appreciate that answer. Thank you. That was very helpful.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Before you go to the next question, Polly Jones, I knew your hand has been up for a little while. I wasn't sure if it was related to one of the questions that we've already covered, or if you have a new question. Polly Jones.
I think I'm here. My name is Polly Jones. I'm with Eden Gardens Community Association. We're a smaller organization, and we purchased a building from the land bank, and we're currently rehabbing it. But we need additional funds in order to complete it because we want to have a community learning center in our neighborhood. And so I noticed early on that there was a minimum bid requirement of 300,000. So if we're not going to need that much money, is it advisable for us to still try to apply for this grant, or will it just be automatically denied because we're not reaching that threshold? And the other question is, I think the organization you're saying that we should have enough funds rather in our bank account or whatever. How do we need to have the whole 300,000 there? Is that what you're asking, or how does that work? I'm not sure.
I appreciate the question. Thank you. And let me take that in a couple parts.
Okay.
As far as the cash on hand requirement, no, you're not required to have the entire project amount. We're just whatever your budget is for the project. You also have some type of timeline as well, and we're just asking that you have 3 months of project funding available in the situation that a draw is either held up by documentation or by review. We're always encouraging, contractors to work with local City of Detroit subcontractors, and it's not a requirement. These are federal funding. You can't put geographic requirements like that. But City Council always wants us to. We want to keep working with Detroiters, but as we're working with smaller contractors and smaller nonprofits, they're not always smaller subcontractors. If a draw takes time to get through the review process, it can put pressure on those smaller businesses that don't maybe have the capacity to go 2 months without receiving pay for a job. So that's what we're asking when we're working with, partnering with nonprofit organizations, that you do have access to capital to pay for those draws for up to 3 months, just to give us some time to work through the draw process. In terms of the minimum $300 or $300,000 requirement, these projects require a fair amount of administrative work as we work through the federal requirements. It's not just the HRD team. It's also, it's our environmental team, our OCFO team, the work to get it through city council. And what we found is it's not an efficient use of our CDBG funding to work on small dollar amount projects. We certainly want to work with small nonprofits. That's absolutely who we want to work with as well. But the really small projects tend to be an inefficient use of our environmental team and our quite honestly, our resources to administer the grants. If we have a lot of little projects, it becomes very burdensome from an administrative standpoint, where it just becomes inefficient. Does that answer your question?
It does. It doesn't. It does. It seems like this avenue is not right for us at this time. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And Cleophas, I see your hand is up, and then Carrie will get to your question next.
Yeah, Elizabeth, thank you. I'm sorry, I just didn't know how to lower my hand, but I did put a question in the chat. I might as well address that question now. Do a general contractor has to be identified before the application is submitted via a contract or an agreement with the subrecipient? And the second part of the question is, if so, can the general contractor submit all up-to-date bids for the scope of work for the project?
No, that's a good question. No, we certainly wouldn't expect you to be under contract with anyone prior to the application. The only contact we ask that you with a contractor is to get some idea of what the project is going to cost.
Okay.
And then once we review the project and we make that pre-development award, then we'll work with you on finding an architect, having them scope the project, creating the designs for the project. And then that architect will work with you as well to create a bid packet that will advertise, and then contractors can apply for that. And then that's when that's the procurement process for a general contractor.
So basically, the general contractor can solicit all my pre-bids for me and submit it on a form or whatever, their letterhead, and it should be okay for the application.
And no, you're really not at the point where you're going to be soliciting bids. No, right. Okay. The only work with the general contractor now would be if you want to use a general contractor just to get you can often get a free cost estimate for your project. Okay. If you, for example, let's say you're doing a roof replacement, you can talk to a contractor and say, I have, this building, it's X amount of square feet. What do you think it will cost to replace this roof? And they'll give you an amount, and you can use that in your application. And then once we make the awards, we make the selections, then we'll work with you and say, okay, let's go find an architect who can actually design the specifications for this project. And we'll take those specifications and we'll put out an advertisement and say, okay, we now have this bid package for this project. You can apply to us, and we'll send you all the specifications for the general contractors to bid. And then you'll get 2, 3, 4 bids from these different general contractors on those design specifications. And that's how the procurement process works. But we certainly wouldn't expect, if you have that now, then that's more of the shovel-ready project we were talking about before. You're a little bit further along, but it's certainly not required at this stage.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And then Carrie, I see your hand.
Hi, thank you for the call today. My name is Carrie Roberts, and I'm with A Place of Refuge. My question today is, so we're a 501c3 shelter, and we've been around for 15 years servicing youth aging out of foster care. Our shelter is a little different in the sense that we have scatter sites, so most of them are always in a home. Um, we haven't built out or gotten a larger facility yet um, for our residents. And so I'm trying to figure out, is this still a good grant for us if we have several homes that need to be, like ADA compliant or brought up to code? Will that still will we still be eligible to apply for the grant?
Thank you for that question, and certainly thank you for your service. It's an interesting question. That the program's not currently designed to rehab individual locations like that. And that's the short answer. I'm trying to think if there's a way we could go about it. It's just with your facility and your organization placing them in individual homes. We're really not designed to rehab individual homes. It's really geared towards our definition of public facility, which is a facility that anyone can use. And with it being individual homes like that, it really doesn't fit the way the program is currently structured.
I have a follow-up question to Carrie. Carrie, are these small group homes or are you placing a single individual in these homes?
They're small group homes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, typically they're about 4 or 5 youth in the homes. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
Absolutely.
Christy and then Andy.
Okay, my questions were in the chat too, but it relates to what Stephen was responding relative to the general contractor. I wasn't using the right language, and maybe I just don't understand these concepts or know how to use the language properly. But my question I had put in the chat earlier is, if we choose to use the building contractor or general contractor that completed our master rehab plan through your city process, do we still need to go through a competitive bid process? Or does that competitive bid then apply to subcontractors below that general contractor level? And does that suffice or meet the requirement that would be in the contract if we were awarded this funding?
That's a very interesting question. I believe we need to competitively procure the general contractor.
Okay.
Yeah, it's possible. It's just to competitively procure every subcontractor would be, my guess is, very cumbersome. If you absolutely wanted to go that route, there may be a way we could do it like that. Let me put it this way. I don't think I've worked on a project where we haven't competitively procured a general contractor, unless an organization came into our NOFA and they already had a contractor selected. Even in that situation, we would require them to submit their internal procurement policies and procedures and any bids that they selected when they used that contractor. So yeah, we really need to competitively procure the contractor.
Okay. So even I guess that's what has been vexing me throughout this entire process. So we have our master rehab plan. We developed that relationship with them, but we still need to bid knowing, or competitively bid knowing, that they would potentially be one of the bidders. It just confuses me.
Yeah, so these are two completely different programs. The master rehab program is an ARPA funded program where we just tried to get as many master rehab plans out there as possible to help nonprofit organizations apply to future NOFAs. It was never the idea that
Oh,
that contractor would be the general contractor for that organization, into the future. That was just that's a separate program.
okay, that's very helpful.
Thank you.
Andy? Andy, ICD?
Yes. Couple of questions. One of them, I think, actually, a couple of them you might have answered. I wanted to, I joined in late, so I wanted to know the limits of the funding. Furthermore, we already engaged it's a mental clinic we're working on. We already engaged with the consultant and the contractor. Actually, it's a facility where we joined. It's a design and build institution, but we did not commence the construction. So are we too far ahead, or can we still qualify for this?
Yeah, you can. That's a good question. And part of this is in the NOFA when it comes to the environmental clearance. If construction has started, if there's already work being done, you would either have to stop immediately upon your application, or you could risk committing what's called a choice limiting action. And this is in the environmental language in the NOFA, which I'm guessing you're referring to. But no, if you have a contractor already, that's certainly fine. We may need you need to submit documentation how that contractor was procured. We certainly want to make sure that the 2 CFR procurement regulations were followed. But no, you can have a contractor already as you're coming into the NOFA.
Okay. And I know you guys mentioned the minimum is 300. What is the upper cap?
In the NOFA, the upper limit right now is 1.25 million unless otherwise authorized. So if your project needs more than that, you can certainly request that. It would taking that on a case-by-case basis.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And to be honest with you, that determination will probably largely depend on the number and the quality of applications. If we have the funding available, we'll certainly do the best we can. But if we have a large number of qualified applicants, it may be difficult to go over that cap.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we can go back to the questions in the chat then. Steve, we were at, if there is a pre-development award, is it assured that council will amend the contract for the construction phase?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. It's not assured, but certainly we're in contact with City Council to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of how CDBG works and what the goal is. And we've already had some of these discussions with City Council members on what the structure of this program is going to look like. So they should be, they certainly were open to that idea, and we continue to have those conversations so that they're aware of what will be coming before them for approval.
Right.
What are competitive scores for the application? It depends on the year, honestly. It really depends on, we've had years where we've had really high applications and some where, that's a difficult question to answer. It really depends on the year and the quality of applications that come in. Can applications include 2 separate addresses for rehabilitation? That would need to be separate applications. You can apply for separate facilities, but as those are different projects, they need to be applied for separately. Can this grant be used with an ARPA grant awarded by the State Department, Michigan Community Center grant? You can apply if you've had any other additional funding that's fine, but we just want to make sure that this project is separate from any other, project that you have. I mean, unless we're adding to the reason it's a difficult question to answer is because if it's a separate project and we're paying for separate costs, that's one thing that we can understand that. If we're adding this funding to another project, that's fine too, but we have to make sure that project isn't already underway. If that project is underway, we don't have to, if it's already been environmentally cleared, we may be able to add funding to it. But there's some other hoops we need to jump through, which is going to depend on kind of what the status is of that project. But we're certainly happy to partner with other funding sources if you were to get awarded. We'll just have to do a little more due diligence to make sure that all those funding sources are committed. Again, we don't want to award a project that isn't going to happen. We need to have that beneficiary data at the end of the day. If agencies receive CDBG under another HRD grant, typically CDBG is provided to offset match. Does that preclude them from receiving PFR funds? Similar type question. No, we can. Then this program is separate from other programs that may be offering funding for services and stuff like that. Since we're looking at the physical structure of the facility, you can certainly continue to apply. We choose to use the building contractor to complete. I think this is Christy. Yeah, we think we just talked about this one. Yeah, we want to competitively procure a general contractor. I mean, you could. I mean, if you really wanted to use, if you had a relationship with someone, you could use them as like an owner's rep. You wouldn't be able to use them as a general contractor. It has to do with the size of the contract. If you look at the 2 CFR procurement, it's the size of the contract that determines the competitive nature of the procurement. Is there a certain convention needs to name the requirements? Yeah, those, as Adam showed, those are in the questions. Just, if you can, do the best you can. It makes it much easier to review the applications if the attachments are named correctly. What does it mean for agency board members to be bonded? Yeah, that's in the slide deck. That part is not in the NOFA questions anymore. There are some board members that may have a surety bond against them to protect against certain illegal activities or fraudulent activities, stuff like that. It's not something that we require. It's more of a question, again, similar to the other board member question. We're just trying to find out as much information. For audit findings, are you talking about IRS or funders program audit? Yeah, any audit findings that you have, certainly we'd be interested in. Is the environmental site assessment requirement discussed completed by a City of Detroit department? No, that's part of the pre-development funding. We would require that you hire an environmental consultant to complete the phase 1 for that, and then we would work with our internal environmental department to review that phase 1 and determine if that's adequate to move forward or if we need additional environmental work. And all those costs are certainly reimbursable for during the pre-development phase of that contract. I have a new nonprofit, so I don't have 3 years of financial forms. Can I partner with an older nonprofit in a joint venture to open a new daycare center? So a couple of things there. If you don't have 3 years of financial, Elizabeth, I think we can take whatever they have. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
For review purposes, yes.
Certainly. But the second part of that question, to open a new daycare center. So PFR has done new construction in the past. We are not doing new construction this year. So if it's a new construction project, that would not be eligible.
But if they have a facility that they can prove site ownership or site control, they may be eligible to apply.
Certainly. Again, if we can bring, new capacity online, we're always interested in that. Next comment here says organizations register and then we bid.
Yes, that got answered early when Adam was on.
Right. Can you go back to where you said you have to go back? I think that was an Adam question as well. If you want to apply for more than one site, should we do so in one application or multiple? That'd be multiple applications. You don't want any application narrative saved in PDF. You're welcome to save it as a PDF. If you'd like, we put the Word document in the NOFA. If it's easier, we thought it may be easier just to type in the Word document for the narrative questions. If you want to do it in a separate sheet and attach it as a PDF, you could do that. Are scopes of work and cost estimates required at this application stage, or is this something that can be done pre-development stage? We'd certainly need some scope of work and cost estimate at this stage. Otherwise, we don't know what to respond to. If we don't know what the project is or what the project might cost, it's difficult to review a project. So yes, we do need, and that's, part of why we had earlier had the master rehab plan program is to give you an idea of what those scopes could look like. But yes, you have to have some type of idea what the scope of the project and the cost is to apply. Is the $50K pre-development fund a fixed amount that we provided to all nonprofits who apply for NOFA by default, or do they need to substantiate how and where the funding will be used prior to receiving the funds? This is still that's still who's going to be awarded. That's not going to be given to everyone. No, these are projects that will be well vetted and ones that we are confident will be moving forward. That there's no funding provided to all by default. Now that's just the pre-development portion of a project that we certainly expect to move to the construction phase. Part 2, clarification on what is considered a project. I think we answered that already. Is household income then a required data point about the population we serve? It depends on the facility and the services that are provided. So there's a number of categories that we can presume that the beneficiaries are low mod. Homelessness are one. Senior citizens are another that we can presume that they are low mod individuals. If the organization does not operate one of those services, then yes, we would need to collect income data, and individuals can self-certify on what their household income is to satisfy that requirement. But yes, if the clients being served do not fall into one of the presumed low moderate income categories, then yes, we would need to collect income data.
Steve, this is Christy. That was my question also. And so if we serve almost exclusively what are considered low income Medicaid eligible individuals or uninsured individuals, is that also presumed because there are thresholds that have to be met to be eligible?
Let me look up we typically work with the homeless and the senior citizens. Let me look up what the 8 presumed low mod are. So presumed low mod are abused children, battered spouses, elderly persons, severely disabled adults, homeless persons, illiterate adults, persons living with AIDS, and migrant farm workers. Those are the presumed low mod. So anyone outside of that category, we would need to collect income data.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then we already addressed Cleo's question about the general contractor.
Great, thank you. Did you say the minimum ask is 300,000? Yes, that's correct. for the funding limits dollar wise, I believe we're at 1.25 is the max request at this point. Thank you. Thank you. Is the GC selection a nonprofit level or city level? So that the general contractor selection will be a requirement of the nonprofit once the award is made, and we'll certainly work with you. But the first step, again, after the award is made, and we'll sit down and discuss this, is to find an architect. Architect will design the scope of the project and the specifications, and build out like the bid package, the scope and the design of the project. That is what the general contractors will apply to. That's where they'll collect their bids, and that's a responsibility of the nonprofit. The clients being served are adults with intellectual or development disabilities, I presume.
You just answered that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Kim.
And let's see, Darnell Boynton, I see your hand is up. Carrie and Andy ICD, I'm assuming that your hands are still up from previous questions. If not, then you can ask your follow-up question after Darnell Boynton.
Thank you. Yes, this is Darnell Boynton with CNS Healthcare. And my question is, can applicants still be funded at a lower requested amount for the project, or if the project can't be funded at the requested amount, does that knock an application out?
Are you referring to the $300,000 limit?
I'm referring to, let's say I submit an application at $1 million. Can an application be funded at a lower amount than I requested, or does, if it can't be funded at my 1 million request, does that knock me out of the process?
That's a great question. Thank you. We try not to fund a project at a lower amount, because that then creates a gap in the project. If we have, let's say we have some funding left over, but not enough to fund your whole project, we have in the past reached out to the nonprofit and see if they have another funding source available. What we can't do is partially fund a project. We can't put $200,000 into $1 million project and then nothing happens, right? That project has to be completed. If the project's not completed, then we don't have the beneficiary data to put in our system. So it has happened in the past, but only when we worked very closely with the nonprofit to make sure that the funding gap could be filled with another funding source.
Gotcha. And how can an organization like mine, that definitely could benefit from whatever amount of funding our organization can get, to show that, we have the ability to, to fill the gap if there is a gap? I mean, I just would not want us to be able to take advantage of this operation because there may be a gap and we've not been able to show from the application submission process that we may be able to fill that gap if necessary. But any outside funds that don't hamper, our current funds would help. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And it's a great question. And what we'll do is, when we score the applications, we'll rank them in order. And then whenever we run out of funding, if we're able to partially fund a project, we'll reach out to that organization and see if that's possible. If that answers your question.
Darnell, okay, all right, he gave us a thumbs up. All right, well then, so that concludes all of the questions that were received either in writing, through Oracle or in the chat for today. We will move back through the Q&A, and once we get all the answers to what was submitted, we will post the Q&A. Now, the wind up for me is to share with you for the, for your application when you're in Oracle, I want you to be mindful of the application section, which we shared with you when Adam went through the Oracle process. There are 3 items that you need to provide a response to. For the threshold section, there are 7 items that you need to provide a response to. For the standard application documents, there are 7 items that you need to provide a response to. Now, for that section 4, conditions of award, so you don't have to have all of these documents, but you need to be able to provide a response. If you don't provide a response to say that you've not uploaded it or that it's pending, then you're not going to be able to, you're going to get that error message telling you that you didn't provide a response to such and such a section. So here's what I want you to do, especially if you're new, using our Oracle system. Want you to go in and do a test run and open up the there in the requirements section, there is a tab that says preview questionnaire. And I'm going to open that. Now, my view is not going to be from a supplier's view, but I'm going to share with you that if you open up the preview questionnaire, when you're answering that section, whether it's application, threshold, standard document, it makes it easier for you to see all of your options if you open up the preview questionnaire completely. Adam didn't, go through a detailed explanation of that because he was compressed for time, but it's more helpful for you. And I'm opening this now, just waiting for it to open up. It's more helpful for you to open up the preview questionnaire entirely, and then you're able to more clearly see what all your options are. And my slide deck, I will upload to Oracle. It does have the link for the supplier resource that Adam shared with you. But I'm going to move this over to my shared screen. Are you able to see the RFA?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So we come over here to requirements. And this tab over to the right says preview requirement questionnaire. So you see at a glance, here's the application, threshold, standard documents, and then the section 4 is going to be the condition of awards documents. But if you open the preview questionnaire, then you're able to see everything in its entirety. So, application, here's the response that you've read the information in the application guide. The documents, I'm not going to try to open those again. Adam shared with you that, but I want you to see that if you're in the preview questionnaire mode, then you were able to see more completely all of what it is that you need to respond to. And there is a drop down here, standard documents. Again, you're able to see completely what you will be responding to. So I just think that it's easier to have that open as you go through downloading your documents, uploading your documents, and then going back before you submit. Go back and double check everything. Make sure that it's there before you hit that submit button. So you can save and work through this as you go along. So you don't have to try to do it all completely. You can save, then come back to it where you left off, and maybe you do it over a week or two. Then go back and double check that you've got everything that you really wanted to upload. So actually, if you upload a document, when you go back and check before you submit, open that document up to see what it is that you uploaded to be sure that you have the right document in the right place. So that's just something to remind you of some helpful hints before you complete your process. All right, so
question on that one.
Yes.
Can you actually upload the document in the preview screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Just make sure that after you upload it, make sure you save as you go along. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
All right. And then the final slide that I have, this is the link to what Adam shared with you in the chat today, the DetroitMI.gov supplier support, where you can get registered if you're not registered in Oracle, and where you can preview the videos that are in there with all of the different activities, including in that section will be the day and the time of the week that our e-procurement team hold their live 30-minute sessions for the different activities. And then they have open office sessions too. The procurement in the cloud at Detroit MI, that is the email address to our e-procurement team. But we encourage you to go to the supplier support webpage first, see what is there that is helpful. And then if you run into, as Adam said, the emergency need for technical assistance, then use the email procurementinthecloud@detroitmi.gov to contact Cedric McGree or Tracy Thompson. Those are our two people who handle e-procurement, not just for this, but for all the bids that the city have out. That's why we're pushing people to do more self-help if you're able to. And then final reminder, if you've got questions about this as we move along, go to the request for applications, the 1818503, and in Oracle messages, submit your additional questions, and we will respond to them in Oracle messages. And if appropriate, we will add them to the Q&A that is growing for this particular opportunity. So with that concludes our sharing with you during this pre-application meeting. We hope that the information we've shared is helpful, and we're looking forward to receiving your applications. And again, we want to thank you for taking your time out today. Now, Steve, you had indicated earlier that some of our city staff from, I think it's the Office of Sustainability, that they had a question or some questions they wanted to ask. Are they still on with us?
It's a good question. I saw Maria was on earlier, but I think she dropped. I'm not sure if there's anyone else that is on still.
So my question is there anyone from the Office of Sustainability who's still on this call, and I understood that you wanted to potentially ask some of the participants some questions. If you're here, this is your time to do so. And if not, if you're not with us, well, maybe there'll be another opportunity. Yeah, I don't see any hands going up, Steve. So I guess they had to move on with some other activities for their day.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. This has been great.
Well, and
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. Thank all of you. Thank you. Nice working with you again, Steve.
You too, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you so
Great
much.
day.
You're so welcome. You have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Enjoy your day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to head and I'm going to end this meeting. It is 4:37 on September 9th, 2024. Closing the pre-application conference for requests for applications 185013. Have a great day.